Hi, it's Kip Twitchell here with another segment of my Conversations with Kip. Today I thought we'd talk further about the timing of the posting processes and how those work within a daily or periodic cycle. I'm in London here for a few days on work. Let's go a little bit deeper in the posting process. Posting process, you'll remember we decided we have to determine the periodicity of our posting process. What are the buckets that are going to be made in the posting process? How often are we going to make balances? That creates a cycle time with creating the balances. The posting process typically will happen within the same cycle time, the balance creation process. For example, if we chose a daily period for keeping balances, our posting process would typically run daily. It may run more frequently. We can take sets of transactions and post them more often if we want to. And that's often done when things are done for a monthly process, is that the process will post on a daily basis even though it only keeps a monthly number. But the cycle typically runs in most organizations for doing this process around a daily cycle. Why is that? Well, there's really a critical set of balances that are made within the organization. Almost every organization has settled on understanding first thing in the morning what the financial position is of the organization. Good to know what the results of yesterday's activity were, how it went, what went wrong, what needs to be done today. That measurement first thing in the morning becomes a critical process. Now, those balances that are made for that process typically are very high-level summary balances. That's because speed is of the essence to be able to create those by the first thing in the morning. So what happens is that there's very few sets of attributes from the transactions that are defined as keys to that posting process. Let's talk for a minute about how many balances might be created off of a set of transactions. It can be calculated quite specifically. The number of balances that can be created off of a set of transactions is the product of the values of each attribute on the transaction that's included in the posting key. So for example, if I have two attributes in my transactions, if I had city, that's had 5 potential values: London, Sao Paulo, Dallas, Hong Kong, Chicago, cities that I've been in recently. And we have another attribute, personal versus public. Then from those two attributes, the product of 5 times 2 is 10. So I can make 10 potential balances off of those two sets of attributes. I could have 1,000,000 transactions. I can have 10 transactions. If I have something less than 10 transactions, I'll have fewer than 10 balances. By it being a product of the values, you can get to a very large number of potential balances very quickly. Today we record scores of things on transactions, on business events, things that we want to understand about customers, their payment type, the dates and times, what the product are that they've purchased. It can be a lot of different attributes that are recorded on those transactions. Then you start taking that across different business processes with their different kinds of attributes. When you're talking about vendors in some situations, as opposed to customers, you're talking about employees for payroll purposes, for their time, their efforts, projects, all of those kinds of things you can see. We get to many different attributes, hundreds of attributes that are kept within today's organizations, and each of those attributes has thousands of values in many of them that are possible, particularly if we start dealing with large retail product sets or with times and places and those sorts of things. So the number of potential balances is very, very large off of all of this transactional data. So all of that, again, though, we decide some key set of that information that is needed for first thing in the morning. And because those are highly aggregated sets of balances, they process quite quickly. But those only answer some set of questions, a limited set of questions. Key questions, things that control the business on a critical basis every day, but not all the questions that are needed from understanding the balances, having measured our business events in some manner. What happens is that those transactions are then typically taken into a later process to create new balances from them. These later processes run later through the day, might run less often, might run weekly, might run monthly, might be done one time to answer a particular question and never repeat it again. So that there's multiple posting processes that are happening at different times of the day. And because those first set of posted balances are so critical for running the business, that things that differ from those first set of balances typically raise questions in the organization. Why didn't this agree with those critical set of balances produced first thing in the morning? There's a lot of different reasons why that can happen. A simple reason is timing. The different set of transactions were taken into a subsequent posting process because the timing was different for when we captured the business events. Another often heard complaint is that there's adjustments, that some set of transactions did not make it into the critical balances in a timely fashion, so someone manually entered an adjustment or corrected something in those critical set of balances, which didn't make it into subsequent other balance build processes, other posting processes. Those are just a couple of simple reasons why you end up with reconciliation differences between these, what I call data supply chains. So there's a process here of reconciliation, of producing the summary numbers first thing in the morning, reconciliation of those numbers against other summaries produced, and questions raised when the answers don't reconcile and can't be proven that they're correct. All of these things add up to the periodicity in the posting process used to understand business events and business event data through our organizations.